do things outside of work. Don't just work. You need to have outside interests. I look at probably 4 things when I interview a candidate. You don't need to be straight A's. I look at IQ. EQ is very important. Emotional quotient, right? Adversity quotient. AQ. LQ, which is your likability quotient.
It's a hidden gem.
What's wrong with you? It's only hidden because you don't know.
Hi everyone, my name is Daryl.
And my name's Estelle.
And in this episode, we'll learn how to thrive as a banker. Actually, to thrive is an understatement for our very accomplished guest, Lee Lung-Nien. But maybe I'll leave you to the introduction.
Oh, thanks, Daryl. I've been a banker for 35 years. I've worked for Citi, one company. I've done 13 different roles. I've worked in many countries, London, New York, Malaysia, 2 tours, and Singapore.
Now you know why I said he's a very accomplished guest.
Super dude. You know, my first question here is to ask, what does a banker actually do? But you've listed a lot of things. Okay, so just for a creative like me, if you were to simply put it,
Yes.
what do bankers do? Do you guys look at numbers all day?
Well, if you go back to first principles, a banker is supposed to look after an individual's or a corporate's money. That's as simple as it gets. But within the banking world, there are so many different roles.
Yeah.
You can be a relationship manager, you can be in operations or technology, you could be in foreign exchange, right? Or options, which is what I did for 25 years. You could be in general management. You can be a product specialist. That means you could be structuring bonds. You could be structuring structured products. You could be in compliance, which is a very important role these days, compliance and governance of the bank. So there are many, many different roles in banking. So there's no one role. Most people think banking means, oh, he's a relationship manager, he's a salesperson. No. Banking is very wide. It's very, very diverse in terms of job scopes.
That's crazy.
Even
Oh
why
my
you can
God.
stay in the same company for
Yeah,
35
so
years.
this is the thing, something that I don't understand about young people, right? I think you can, if you find a good organization, stay with the organization. I used to give this example, it's like going to a shopping center. You can go buy different things in the shopping center, right? It is not a specialized shop. So if you join an organization where the culture is good and there are opportunities in different departments, by all means, you can stay in that organization for a long time. And many of my colleagues have stayed for 20 years, 25, 30 years.
But did you always want to be a banker? Because you said this is the
Oh,
only job
no,
you-
no.
Oh, then what
No,
was
no.
it before?
After I graduated in marketing, right?
In marketing?
In marketing, yeah.
Oh
So
my
I was an advertising guy, right? So
What?
yeah, so I was an advertising guy, and I wanted to come back. I was in university in Hawaii. Yeah. So I know who goes to university in Hawaii, right?
But beautiful place though.
No, it's huge. It's great. I really enjoyed Hawaii. And but when I came back to Singapore, my father said, you want to do advertising?
Every parent says
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Are you sure you want to do advertising? Maybe you should go join a bank. That was it. It's just a one-liner. So I just go and interview. And then in my first interview, Citibank offered me a role. So I just joined Citi, not knowing what I was getting myself into or not knowing what actually banking was all about.
Yeah, how does that work? Because whatever you've studied in banking, it's
No, the reality in life is you don't need to study banking, for example, to be in banking. The only, I think, jobs perhaps in this world, like if you want to be a doctor or lawyer,
Yeah.
where you have a special professional qualification. But apart from that, at Citi, we've hired doctors, we've hired vets, right? We've hired art students, we've hired, general business management. You don't need to have a banking degree or business administration degree. You know, as long as you have the right attitude, you have the right mindset, you are eager to learn, I think you can find a place in banking.
But it must be easier, right? Let's say you want to get into banking and then you do
Yeah.
a business degree.
No, not
Not easier?
necessarily true. Not necessarily true. Because if we hired only people with business administration background, for example, then you won't have a diverse pool of talent, right? You need to have, in banking, you need to have diverse views. You need to have diverse skill sets to work with different people, different departments and all.
That is very true.
Right? It doesn't mean that you need to have just a business degree to be in banking. But I think what's important is we look at skill sets. I mean, when I hire, I look at probably four things
Okay.
when I interview a candidate.
Okay.
I look at IQ. Now, let's say if you did go to university, which means to say that you've got a mind that is a trainable mind, that you are able to absorb information, and you've gone through a course and you graduated. IQ, right? You don't need to be straight A's. You don't need to have first class honors.
Okay.
But IQ is important.
Okay.
EQ is very important in banking. EQ means your emotional quotient, right?
Yeah.
The ability to work with people, the ability to, have empathy, to communicate well, to be able to read individuals, to be able to work closely as a team with people. EQ, which is very, very important. And then the next one is your adversity quotient, AQ. Right? Adversity quotient is if you get knocked down, let's say you failed a subject in school or you took on a project and you didn't do well, how did you bounce back? Show me that you can take failure. I think that's very important. AQ, your adversity quotient. And the last point, which is not really on the books, I look at is what I would call IQ. Not IQ, sorry. LQ, which is your likability quotient. Right? If I sit and talk to you, within 5 minutes, I'll know whether we get along or not. Right?
Go by vibes.
Yeah. No,
Vibes
it's true,
hiring.
right? It's an unofficial way of sussing a person out. Because if within 3 minutes, 5 minutes, I get upset with what you say, right? And you start saying things that are maybe, not correct or you have a certain agenda, I would be able to feel that. And that won't be good. It won't be a good cultural fit in an organization like Citi. Yeah.
I find that a lot of times when people go for interviews, it's not so much what they say. I mean, it matters what they say, but a lot of it is very subconscious.
So let me just follow up on that point, right? One question that I always ask a candidate, now if you put your CV together, right? You show it to me, I look at it. I'm sure you know that CV backwards, forwards. You can answer every single line, right? You know where the full stop is, right? Yeah. But the question that I always ask a candidate is, okay, so tell me something or tell me about yourself that's not on your CV. And you'll be surprised that there are many candidates that cannot answer. They're like, is that a trick question? And this is Singaporean.
They actually
typical.
ask that?
Like, no, in their mind,
Oh,
you
in
can
their
tell,
mind,
right?
just
That
read
they're
it on
like
their face,
trying
I
to
like
figure
it.
out, okay, is this a trick question, right? But it's true. I'll ask you, right? So, Daryl, tell me what's not on your CV. And people like, but everything is on the CV. I prepared for this. I don't know what else to say outside. And that's a fail for me if you cannot.
But is there something specific that you are looking for them to say, like, I volunteer at a pet shelter?
Sure, that's a good example, right? So we look for. So there was a particular case we were looking for high potential young management associates, and this is I would say 15 years ago. I remember I interviewed this young lady. So she studied at one of the local universities. She had very good grades, right? Like first class honors or something. So I said, tell me stuff that's not on your CV. Then she said, well, okay, I come from a broken home. Oh, okay. I'm a single parent. my mom's a hawker. Okay, so I said, okay. And every day after school, I would go and help my mom. I'm like, okay, what else? And then after that, when I finished helping my mom, I would also go and help in a little orphanage
Wow.
to give back. Then I'm like, whoa, okay. And then I looked at her CV. She's also captain of the netball team. Right? And in between all that, she gives tuition to supplement her mom's income.
Wow.
So when I look at this, I put all this together, and this is not on the CV. Straight away, you look, wow, this person's got resilience.
Yeah.
This person has adversity quotient, right? The AQ I was talking about has leadership potential because she is captain of the netball team also,
Yes.
right? And then quite smart, right? Obviously, you got
Yeah.
right first class honors, and the fact that you help out,
You give back.
you give back, right?
Yeah.
Your EQ must be quite high.
Yeah.
So, tell me you're high or not?
Of course.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, do you work at a pet shelter or work in an orphanage?
No, but I do my part as a partner at home. I do the chores
Oh,
and I
very
take
good.
care of my 2 cats. You know, and I occasionally bring my
Okay.
parents out to makan.
Okay.
But I'm working on that. I think.
Yeah,
giving
so
back
I
is very
think it's important that young people do things outside of work. Don't just work. You need to have outside interests.
Oh,
You need to give back. And you can give back at an early age. You don't need to wait until you're like 30, 40, 50 years old and then say, when I get there, then I give back. No. You can help out at an orphanage.
Oh, yeah.
You can help out at a pet shelter at an early age.
But the common stereotype of bankers is that they have to work very long hours, and it's kind of one of those like traditionally looked up upon occupations like doctors and lawyers.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very glam job. The pay is good, but you have to work very long hours. You know, is that true? And then if they have to work very long hours, where do they find the time to
Okay, so
volunteer?
that's a good question, right? I've worked in banking for 35 years, as I mentioned. But since day one, I've always had a lot of outside interests. You know, I sit on boards, I sit on, in the old days, I got involved in sports as well. So you have 24 hours, I have 24 hours. The question is, what do you do within that 24 hours? So let's just use some simple examples.
Yeah.
You work, say, you start at 8, you end at 6, just for discussion's sake. Then what happens after 6? The young people, a lot of young people that I know, wow, let's go for drinks,
I was just thinking that.
right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly, right?
Read my mind.
For the next 3 hours, for example,
Yeah.
right? To 9 o'clock maybe. Then you stagger home, cannot do much after that, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Then the cycle starts again.
Yeah.
But if you reprioritize all this, let's say you only had drinks once a week on Thursday night or Friday night, then you still have the other Mondays to, to Thursdays to
Yeah.
to
If
play.
not, it would be concerning.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
drinking
you're
every day.
a serial drinker.
Yeah.
So, but you can do other stuff outside. You can go help out in the pet shelter after hours, right? You could work in areas that suits your interests. Develop a hobby. Right? You need to have hobbies to keep you going, because if you only do 9 or 8 to 6, doing that same job, you'll get burnt out really quickly. So outside interests is very, very important. And I have this saying, right, that you must get a life. You must get a life.
Quote of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true. It's like work-life balance is to keep your sanity.
No, indeed. And what happens when you have more interests? It makes you a more interesting person,
Oh, that's so true.
right?
True.
You can talk about different things in life. You can share different information. You have different interest groups that you can join.
And in interviews, it makes you more memorable.
Yeah, maybe, right. Yeah, indeed, right? You can talk about different things, right? I remember this story. I was interviewing students from the UK. And I asked the question, how many of you want to be investment bankers? Wow. Half the cohort, I mean, there were 200 in the room. 200 put up their hand, 100 put up their hands. And I asked, so do you know what it means to be an investment banker? They're like, oh yeah, do deals, right? Do big deals, do IPO, do fundraising, equity transactions, derivatives. I said, when you first join, right, all you will be doing is PowerPoint presentations. You'll be
Buying
doing
coffee.
decks. Go and buy coffee for the seniors to go and do it. No organization is going to give you the opportunity to go pitch to the client in your first 3 years. Really, it's a process whereby you have to learn from your seniors, right?
Yeah.
You go and learn. You understudy, but it's long hours to a certain extent, like you said. Okay, it's long hours because when they come back from the pitch, they got to go and rework the numbers, and who's going to do that? It's not the senior, right? It's the junior staff that's going to the whole night to make sure that the deck is ready the next day.
I also heard the investment bankers as fresh graduates, they earn 5 figures when they first start.
At the beginning.
Yeah,
so
if
it
that's the
pays
case,
off.
I don't mind making the PowerPoint slide and buying coffee.
Okay, so this is interesting. It depends on your personality. You might say, well, I don't mind earning 5 figures.
Yeah.
But the question for you is, you might say, okay, the first paycheck coming, wow, it's worth it. Then after 2 months, 3 months, you might get burnt out.
That's true.
So then you have to ask yourself, is this worth
the money.
the money?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because your mental health comes into play and your the time. Because if you are someone who needs different interests, you have no time for that. So there is no, and I think to your question earlier about debunking the myth about banking, maybe it's because of the stories around investment bankers, the movies that are out there, like Wall Street and all. Then, it just gets glamorized, it dramatizes the whole banking industry. But not all departments in banks are like that. That's just one department.
But is that true that fresh grads can earn like 10K per month
Yeah.
for investment?
But then it's not it's not, that's one particular department.
Right.
But based on industry standards, the turnover is also very high
For investment banking.
for investment banking and for certain departments, because the candidate or the junior staff, they don't know what they're getting themselves into. I mean, think about it. It's like saying army. I want to join the army. Within the army, there are different disciplines, right? And vocations, right? You can be a signal officer, RT officer. And then there's commando. I want to be a commando.
Wow.
Can.
Sure.
But can you actually survive
Yeah, can take
commando training?
Agreed.
Commandos do get paid more than the others, right?
Yeah,
But would you be able to survive the physical aspects, the mental, right? So not everybody. And commando is just one unit of the entire the army, right? So it's the same type of analogy that I will give you.
If you were to give a range for the salary for other types of banks for
Going-
fresh grads,
Oh no, it's whole range. It starts from, I don't know, 4,000, 3,005, all the way up. So it depends.
Yeah, I think a lot of us assume the moment you get into banking, you really earn, like you have
No.
slog a lot.
But let
you
me
earn a
give
lot.
this advice to young people. Any career, it's got nothing to do with banking. Any career, eventually you will get there.
Yeah.
Let's say your goal is to earn, just make up a number, 12,000. Even if you start at 4, eventually, if you stay long enough, you will get to
The 12.
12. Right? The problem I see is patience. Young people do not have patience. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the time. I'll give you this example. When I first joined the bank, one of my seniors, he was the head of credit, and I was in the credit department. He goes, "Hey, Long, and this is literally year one, that means 34 years ago. He goes, hey Long, you think you're very good, right? I said, yeah, I'm quite good.
Whoa.
And he said, yeah, I also think you're quite good. In fact, some of us think that you're actually quite good. But there's one thing that's missing. Then I'm like, oh, what is it? He said, experience.
Oof.
And I'm like, oh.
He's right. though.
Which means to say that you have to do the job long term, make mistakes, go grind through
Yeah.
before you get good. Right? You have to go through the process. The journey is important. You have to go through that journey.
But if I were to play devil's advocate, right? So some career coaches, they advise job switching, which is fairly normal nowadays, because studies have shown that people who job switch, say every 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, they do get a higher salary than those who stay in the same company and don't job switch.
So I would look at it slightly differently. You can job switch, but every time you job switch, you have to adapt to a new culture. You've got to adapt to a new process. The problem with that is, if you keep doing that, I know somebody that's got, in 30 years, has something like, if I'm not mistaken, 15 or 18 different job switches. When I want to hire somebody, I would want to look for loyalty.
Yeah, I would think so. 15
Right,
jobs.
right. For example, I want to look for loyalty in an individual. What's the point of you coming in, join me, I help train you, and then 2 years later, I know you're going to chow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yikes.
No good, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, I took the other extreme, right? I just stayed in my current role and just did well. Focus on doing well in your current job. Then you get noticed and people will want you.
Like there has to be a reason why you're job switching, and like you have to look at what skills I can learn from this place that I'm not learning here, right?
And when you get to a certain level, what will happen is they will ask you, what value, Daryl, do you bring to the table? It is not about you going there and learning. There will come a time, it's probably going to be about 10 years in your career, whereby the organization will ask you, what do you bring to the table? Because I'm going to keep paying you up. And assuming you had 3-4 different jobs already by the time, the organization will ask you, what do you, Daryl, do you bring to the table? Right? It's no more just about pay, right? I pay you, but you better, deliver something, right? Okay?
I bring the vibes.
You bring the vibes.
Okay.
He's not impressed. Oh, vibes. Oh, sure. That's great. Okay. Out of the company. Okay, you're good. Thanks for your time. But you know what? I feel like, okay, we've talked a lot about, the serious stuff in like banking. So we thought maybe we could jazz it up a little bit. How about a round of quickfire questions?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, so we have a cup here full of questions, which we will have you pick out a question and then you read.
Okay.
And you have a minute to answer each. So it's not so bad. 1 minute actually quite long.
Okay, Ken.
Okay, we need to reach for the... Okay.
Can reach this. Okay. First question.
Yeah, got anybody taking time or not? Nobody.
Okay.
using our brains. Okay, so what's your first question?
Favorite lunch spot in CBD?
Go. What's your favorite lunch spot?
Can I have two? No?
No, one only.
One only. Yeah. Probably chicken rice, Chin Chin, Purvis Street.
Wow, that's specific too. Okay.
Is it a hidden gem?
No lah. You know what a hidden gem is not? That means nobody know. This how how popular this place
No, I
is.
never
not?
heard before.
It's so popular.
Chin Chin.
Yeah, it's only hidden because you don't know, but the rest of the world know. Okay, Daryl.
When I go to
You
CBD,
try.
it's like
Gem.
an alien place.
I think for you, if it's a hidden gem and if it's really
Not
good, you won't
hidden gem.
share.
There is no such thing as hidden gem.
Have in Singapore?
No.
Have.
Okay, it's just that you don't know, but everybody else knows.
If you scroll Instagram, right, you look for the food reviews, right, you see a lot of hidden gems.
It's not hidden. Other people know. If somebody did the review, means people know. It's just that you don't know.
Okay.
Okay, next
one.
question.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
go.
Next question. Who came out with these questions?
The team.
Oh, the team. Okay, what's your next question?
Let's say I'm looking for a man in finance.
Do you know that song?
Complete the sentence.
Don't know there. I don't know this song there. What song is this?
I'm looking for a man in finance. What, trust fund? Blue
Blue
eyes?
eyes.
Oh yeah.
6'5".
6'5", yeah.
What is this?
It's a TikTok trend.
Oh, don't know.
Yeah, you better you can impress your kids.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
But I think we said it in the wrong order, I think. I'm looking for a man in finance.
6'5".
6'5",
Blue
eyes,
eyes,
trust fund.
Don't know.
Don't know. Okay, but now you
Different
know.
generation there.
Oh.
Yeah, now it's Gen Alpha stuff, this one. Okay, what's the
Okay.
next question?
Any trade secrets you can share? Maybe not in banking, but maybe what keeps me sane is the getting a life, like I mentioned before.
I love that, like.
Have interests,
Yeah, agreed.
right? Have different interests, and you know this. We spoke about this before we went on air. I mean, I'm a musician.
Yes.
I race go-karts,
Yeah,
right? I
crazy
race
guys.
for Singapore.
What in the world?
Sit on different boards. Make sure that you're interesting to balance out, so you don't get burnt out. So I think that's a trade secret. Do different things.
Enrich your life. not-
Enrich your life. That's a good one.
Yeah, I
Alright.
think. Remember, get a life, guys. Quote for
Yeah.
today.
Oh no, I got another quote.
Oh, what's the other quote?
I'll give you a quote at the end.
At the end. Okay, at the end, guys.
Wow, who wrote this? These questions. Is it online?
No.
Would you say you look young for a banker your age?
I think you look young. I guess the younger age.
I would give credit to Bino, the makeup artist. He made me look young. I think a lot of it has got to do with the energy level,
Oh, that's true.
right? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
think it's about how you look, but the vibe, like you say, right? The energy that you bring to the table. You know, you got young people that when you're your friends and colleagues, right? You look at them, wow, this one them uncle, right? but they're young,
It's
right?
true.
There are people like just slow, right? You need to keep
And there are
going.
those who every day OT, then they stay very late in the office, so they don't get much sleep, and then every day they wake up just looking haggard, and they start aging a lot because of the stress.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
But get
hustle
a life.
lah. Okay, get a life,
Get a
hustle.
life, right?
Life.
Very important.
Yeah, enrich yourself, okay? You want to hustle at work, get that bag, but also take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, but thank you so much. That was our quick fire round of questions. Yeah, that was great. Okay, now, we have one more question actually over here.
Okay.
Oh, this is actually a good question. If you're to meet your younger self for coffee now, what would you tell him, assuming your younger self only has 5 minutes?
Actually, the way I would say to my younger self
Yes.
is, don't take everything so seriously.
I totally agree with that.
You know,
Yeah, that's
take a step back. Literally, take a step back and look at things from the outside in. If someone upsets you, I would just look back. I'll look at myself. And it's like, okay, just let it pass. Because when someone upsets you, you get disturbed or upset. You can actually debunk or distill that, because your life is in your own hands. I know it's not easy to do. It might be easier as you grow older. But I would tell my younger self, don't stress out on everything. Not everything is important or urgent. Just take a step back, chill. Life will still go on.
Talking about that, right? So I've noticed that a lot of students, especially university students, they are very stressed nowadays because of internships. They feel like if they don't have at least 5 internships before they get their first full-time job, right, they cannot make it in the world.
Yeah, which is
What do you think
crazy.
about that?
Okay, so it depends on what type of internship you want as well. If you expect, let's say you're a not banking, but maybe business management student, and you wanted one bank, one insurance company, one consulting, and one, say, professional company, yes, you will get very stressed. for me, I'll just take myself as an example. What internships did I do during my time, right? I worked at a hotel, front office, right? It allowed me to develop people skills, talking to guests and all. I worked in a kitchen. Back in the day, there was this hotel called Marco Polo, no more around. I worked in the kitchen.
What were you doing?
Like line cook.
Slice potatoes,
Wow.
make the vegetable soup, you know? But it allowed me to work with different types of individuals, the chefs, the cooks and all, from diverse backgrounds. Also, again, it allowed me to learn interpersonal skills, right? I'm very good at peeling potatoes also now.
But it's like in the kitchen, it's high pressure situations too. If it's like lunch crowd and stuff like that,
Yeah.
everyone's like
Yeah.
quite intense.
So it's important.
Yeah.
Learn how to cook a steak,
Oh, that
right?
that one is to woo a gal, you know.
You know?
For dating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, don't stress out even if you don't get the
No.
internship you want.
See, yes, it's important that you get good internships. Because I can understand what they are thinking. Oh, if I get good internships, it builds my CV, and therefore I will get a good job at the end. But remember if you interviewed with me, sure, if you get a good job, a good, say, with a real professional organization, a bank or whatever, that's great. But again, there are different types of banks, there are different types of organization. But what I want to know from you is, what skill sets did you pick up? Right? Just because you're there doesn't mean that you will get a job at the end. Yes, your CV might look nice. I remember I interviewed this individual, double PhD
Wow.
with I think distinction or something lah. PhD. I don't know how come PhD got distinction one, but it's double PhD. So, really smart person, right?
Yeah.
I didn't give the person a job.
Why not?
Lack of experience. Or?
Yeah, because it just showed me that you know how to study only,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't show me that you work well in a team. Doesn't show me that you can solve problems. All you did was research, right? So a degree doesn't. I mean, it just shows me that you can study lah.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, lah, but also because this person has all that knowledge already, but they just need the experience.
Yeah, but this person already like 30-something years old. All they did was study all their life, right? To get 2 PhDs. They didn't get the job.
So now that we're coming to the end, right, what is that last quote that you wanted to share?
Oh, it's quite straightforward, but it can be quite deep also.
I'm ready. Let's
It
go.
is. It's happiness is a choice.
That is true.
All right?
It's true.
So you can choose to be happy or not. It's up to you.
Oh, I really agree with it. I think a lot of the times we take happiness for granted. We're always busy chasing other things. So I think you're right. I think even though it sounds simple, it is kind of it's something we don't think about. So I'm going to take it with me. Thank you so much for that.
And with that, we've come to the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.